Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am not here with Geeky Sparkles, so I'm going to talk about something she really doesn't care much about. I'm going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. I'm going to talk about Wizards of the Coast, and I'm going to talk about how they're discontinuing Dungeons and Dragons in Brazil. It's not going very well for them. They're not going to release the books, I guess, in Portuguese. And there's a whole story behind it. We're gonna go out to this Twitter thread and take a look at what is going on in Brazil. But it's interesting because I know D&D is incredibly popular in Brazil. So much so that they had a car commercial a couple of years ago. And it was amazing. It was based on the animated series. And the actors that they chose to play the animated D&D characters were like one-to-one with their counterparts. Like, if Hollywood could do it this good, this movie would have made bank for sure. I think it would have made lots of money, but I know that D&D is very big in Brazil, so I'm sure it is not something that a lot of fans of Tabletop are happy to hear, that they're losing D&D, of course, the way that things are going. Current year D&D, I don't know if it's that much of a loss, but we're gonna talk about all this. There's some outrage on Reddit. People are not happy. People are just not happy with Wizards of the Coast these days, and I still think that they're going to wind up selling off D&D or doing something with it or pawning off the publishing rights to somebody else or something. It does not appear to me that Hasbro is interested in making tabletop games or board games anymore. They're interested in some of that video game money, and I could totally see them going to Paizo or somebody else and being like, hey, you want to publish the books for us? Because we don't want to publish them. I mean, they fired how many people? You know, was it like 1,100 people right before Christmas? And a lot of those people worked at Wizards of the Coast. So that tells me they're not really in the business of Dungeons and Dragons. And a lot of people that got fired were D&D people, by the way. I just don't think they want to do this anymore. So we're going to talk about it. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants. Guys, if you want to listen to us, not have to look at us, go out to iTunes, go out to Spotify, go out to Amazon Music, and wherever you find podcasts, we're all over the place. And you can subscribe to the audio version of Clownfish TV. You can subscribe to the audio version of Clownfish Gaming News. And you can also subscribe to Derezzed, which is our interview podcast. It's coming back. And please do that. We're trying to build up an audience over there as well. You never know what's going to happen with YouTube. Sometimes I'm all like, yay, YouTube. And other days I'm just like, oh, God, they keep doing some really stupid stuff. Better not pull my eggs into this basket, right? So let's talk about this. We're going to go out to Game Rant first, and then we're going to go out to this Twitter thread, courtesy of William, who jumped into another thread on Twitter, and that's fine. He's like, hey, are you, not to bother you guys, but could you look into this? And here's an explanation as to what's going on. We actually... I actually had a friend of mine in California was a foreign exchange student from Brazil, and everyone kept trying to speak Spanish to him. And it's like, no, it's Portuguese, guys. It's Portuguese. That's what they speak in Brazil. That's how I know that. But yeah, they're not gonna publish Portuguese language versions of Dungeons and Dragons. This comes from Game Rant. D&D no longer supporting one language. Wizards of the Coast has revealed that D&D will be ending official translation support for one language this year. Wizards of the Coast is ending official Portuguese translations for Dungeons and Dragons source books, according to a recent announcement. The decision to end Portuguese support was due to rising costs and will leave only 6 officially supported languages. Yo-ho, yo-ho. I think a lot of people are going to pirate these books. The announcement comes as Dungeons & Dragons gears up to roll out its Major 1 D&D expansion later this year, featuring major changes to the game's rule set. So yeah, it's fantastic. Let's just kill off a market, a potential market for D&D. Again, I know Brazil loves Dungeons & Dragons very much. They're going to kill it off. Beloved tabletop role-playing game. I don't know about that. Tabletop role-playing game Dungeons & Dragons has revealed that the company will end official Portuguese translations for the game's source books following this year. That's an awkward sentence. Will end official Portuguese translations for the game's source books following this year, after this year. Well, maybe it means the same thing. First released nearly 50 years ago, the tabletop RPG is now published by Wizards of the Coast and has become one of the world's most iconic tabletop games. The game has featured multiple iterations throughout its long life. Only maybe 3 of those worth playing, in my opinion, with Wizards of the Coast regularly expanding Dungeons & Dragons with new source books, modules, and rule sets. Now, however, the developer is reportedly set to end support for one language. With the game played around the world, D&D features a plethora of translations. Not anymore. They said currently it's in 7 different languages: English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Spanish, and Portuguese. Wizards had previously licensed international translations to developer Gale Force 9 before taking over its global releases in 2022. Now D&D is set to end support for its Portuguese translations. Could they outsource it again? So Brazil is kind of weird because I know I'm also a huge retro video game nerd. And Brazil was like the biggest market for the Sega Master System. Did you know that? Like, nobody else really cared about the Sega Master System, but there was this company, I think it was called Tectoy, and they were making Sega Master System games for years. Like, I believe it outsold the NES, or they never made the NES available in Brazil. I don't know the full story, but I know that like they were making Master System games into like the late 1990s and early 2000s. It was like, wow, that's crazy. So it is like a totally different market there than other places. They said this is reported by comicbook.com. An official announcement from Dungeons & Dragons has revealed the game will be shelving its Portuguese translation. According to the Post, the official end of support for the game's Portuguese version is set to arrive later this year, with D&D proceeding with only 6 officially supported languages. Again, officially supported. The developer has also revealed the last 3 D&D expansions that will be supported in Portuguese, with Fizban's Treasury of Dragons, Journeys Through the Radiant Citadel, and Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Wizards of the Coast cited rising costs as a major factor behind the change. No, rising costs, yes. Less staff. I would say having significantly less staff to work on this stuff. Why can't they just use AI to translate it? They're using AI for everything else. Here's the official announcement. We're making the difficult decision to halt Portuguese products later this year. We will continue to release products in English, French, German, Italian, Japanese, and Spanish because, screw Brazil. We don't care. We don't care about you guys in Brazil. So I got to go out to William's thread here, and you're not bothering us at all, William, aka Krizarashi. I can't pronounce that, but I'm going to call you William. Sorry to bother you. I watch your videos. I know you and Neon talk about Hasbro and WotC, the mess and the craziness. Yes, it's insane. So I made a thread to explain details as a Brazilian on the recent end of Magic and D&D in Portuguese by WotC. I want to read his thread, so let's go see his thread explaining the process of Hasbro and WotC killing D&D and Magic the Gathering in Portuguese. D&D books were published by Galapagos Jogos, which is the largest board game publisher in Brazil. We really can't understand why WotC canceled its licensing rights in 2022. Probably, if I had to guess, I'd say it was short-sighted. They wanted to bring it in-house thinking it was going to probably make them more money, but it didn't, and now they just don't care. And I'm going to be honest, William, I don't think Hasbro really cares that much about Dungeons & Dragons as a tabletop product. They want to make video games. They want to make more Baldur's Gate video games, and I don't think they care. I think they're going to wind up outsourcing the books or selling the whole thing off before it's all said and done. I mean, all the signs are there. People were like, oh, no, we asked them, and they said, no, they're not planning on it. I'm like, they're a corporation. They lie. Hasbro lies all the time. They lied to their employees right before they fired them all. Yeah, what do you expect? Of course they're going to lie. Anyway, William continues. WotC only said the production would turn to be made in-house in the USA, and when WotC republished the 3 main books, it cost almost double the price of the previous books by Galapagos. So why would us Brazilians buy what we already have? Yeah, that's a pretty good point. And they are mainly only available through Amazon because the last 3 years, WotC closed its Brazilian office in the city of Sao Paulo and also closed most of its offices in South America. Everyone got fired. At first, closing the offices mostly hurt Magic the Gathering because D&D was still published by Galapagos. Most of WotC's official tournaments and event presences have disappeared. Now all Magic tournaments and events are run by local shops. That's how it should be. I think that's how it should be. So there's no one here from WotC to work on distribution. If local stores want to get WotC books, they will have to import them themselves. That's not easy or cheap. Same problems with the Magic cards. If WotC could not achieve the Unreal selling numbers, it was their fault. I don't think they care. I truly don't think they care. I think they have their sights set on video games. I think that's what they want to do. The Brazilian Supreme Court has decided that Magic cards are didactic material compared to books since they help with the development of text interpretation and mathematic knowledge for kids. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. So Magic the Gathering and other collectible card games have tax immunity as books, as provided for in the Brazilian Constitution. We'd probably sell a lot more books if our books were tax-free. I mean, I guess technically they kind of sort of are if you buy them through a site, but no, they still charge tax on that. I don't know. Of course, the same goes for RPG books too. Hasbro doesn't care. William, this is it right here. You could just end with that. Hasbro doesn't care. They don't care. They don't care about anybody. They care about themselves and buying themselves more time. I think. I don't know what the end game for Hasbro is. This is a company that's just gotten too big, and I don't think they know what they are. Continuing, to have tax immunity, WotC must properly fill out the documentation and description of products sold and exported from the USA to Brazil. If not, the product will be stranded in customs, or as commonly happens, will be misidentified and taxed as toys. This is in all caps. It must be very important. Need I say that Hasbro, WotC most of the time will not properly fill out the documentation because, to return to number 7, Hasbro doesn't care. They don't care. WotC does not know the Brazilian community. In Brazil, since 2018, on February 24th, 2018, is celebrated National RPG Day. Dang. They have a National RPG Day in Brazil. Like, look, I knew Dungeons and Dragons was very important to Brazil. I knew it was very important. I'm like, why? I was baffled when I first saw this car commercial. I was like, one, who cares about the D&D cartoon anymore? Because in America, it kind of came and went, but you know, it's seen a resurgence in popularity, right? But it wasn't the cultural icon that apparently it is in Brazil. Apparently the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon in Brazil is a very, very big deal. So for them to put the money into producing this car commercial made total sense. It was a hit of nostalgia, and it was great too. The car commercial, they actually get to go home. So this is kind of like the unofficial ending of the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. And I loved it so much. And I wish Hollywood would take notes and they would make a movie just like this. And you know what? Hire actors that look like these kids. They look better. This cast looks better than the people they had LARPing as the animated series characters in the official Dungeons and Dragons movie, which wasn't a bad movie, by the way. And I actually kind of had to eat my words on that. It was not a bad movie, but they're perfect. They're absolutely perfect. Anyway, so they have RPG Day. That's awesome. So this is Douglas, who's the founder of Dever Publishing. I'm not familiar. He was a fundamental figure in the introduction and popularization of role-playing games in Brazil. Devere Publishing, I think I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, organized the biggest RPG event in Brazil for more than 20 years. Started in 1993 and it lasted until 2015. He died in 2017. That's too bad. To abandon us, D&D and Magic, by making a few paragraphs with absurd justifications on the eve of a sacred holiday. Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, so that's when they made the announcement. Hey guys, happy RPG Day. We're not going to give you Dungeons and Dragons anymore. Okay, enjoy your holiday. Damn, that's tight. Like, even to a guy like me, Hasbro, that's cold. They don't care. They fired a whole bunch of their employees right before Christmas. They do not care. Hasbro doesn't care. To abandon us, D&D Magic communities, by making a few paragraphs with absurd justifications on the eve of a sacred holiday of the Brazilian tabletop community, not a smart decision. Well, I don't think they're worried about selling games in Brazil anymore, William, and I'm very sorry to hear this. I think that's incredibly awesome that they have an official RPG day. I mean, we've got some really stupid holidays in the U.S. I would love to have Tabletop Day, but then Hasbro would try to own it. They'd say they invented it. You know, it's really sickening about D&D, since they're talking about the 50th anniversary, is they're basically trying to wipe Gary Gygax from existence. One of the two guys that worked mostly on D&D, but like they've tried very hard to wipe his name because they don't agree with his politics. It's so weird. I mean, he created Gen Con, and the people working at Gen Con now can't even pronounce his name properly. His family is not making any money off of Dungeons and Dragons. In fact, Baldur's Gate is making all kinds of money. And I'm pretty sure that the creator of the Forgotten Realms, the creator of Baldur's Gate, Ed Greenwood, I don't think he's getting any money for that. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's getting royalties. And they based the movie on Forgotten Realms too. I mean, honestly, he should be getting money every time they sell a Dritz costume. It's as awful as they are. It's Spirit Halloween. He should be getting paid, and I don't think he is. It's not a very good deal. So to reiterate, number 7, Hasbro doesn't care, William, and I'm very sorry. This is heartbreaking to hear though, because man, right on the eve of a holiday, I didn't even know this was a thing, but it's really amazing that it is. And there we go, guys. You know, Hasbro, they really don't care. They're sticking it to the Brazilian RPG community right before a holiday. There you go. But I'm not too excited about the next version of Dungeons and Dragons. I don't expect it to be that good. But hopefully somebody else will jump in and fill the void in Brazil. I imagine there are other publishers that would love to get their product to Brazil. When we release Adventure Engine, maybe we'll have to work on a Portuguese version. That would be a lot of fun. That'd be pretty cool. So thank you very much, William, for making me aware of this. And yeah, it's just another stupid decision by Hasbro. But again, this is another indicator that they don't really care about tabletop games. I think they're getting ready to nope out. That's my personal opinion. Now, all the signs are there. Like they just don't care. I'm going to wrap it up. Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, and we'll talk later.